There is blind justice, and then there is trading justice, so that you can finally afford to get that laser eye surgery. Not only will people find you more attractive once you ditch those old glasses, you'll be able to see your charts better. That's what we call win-win. Speaking of winning, it's time for a little trading justice. Brought to you by TackleTrading.com.
All right, welcome back to the Trading Justice Podcast. Matt Justice, your host, along with my co-host, Tim Justice. Tim, how are you doing today?
Doing awesome, Matt. Doing great. Every time I hear that song, I get fired up, by the way. It never fails.
It never ends, does it? Literally never does it end. I love that song. That's why it's our theme song. We might switch it up every now and then, but that's a mainstay here. Tim, I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about a couple different topics. The first was the major news coming out of the international markets last night, with the Bank of Japan holding rates steady, the BOJ, as well as the ECB with the unexpected rate cut and stimulus into the market between 40 billion euro and 100 billion euro. What is your first impression of the announcement, especially by the ECB?
Well, advice first, and then an impression second. The advice I would give every trader out there that's listening is you got to realize you're in a 24-hour market, whether you trade 20 minutes a day or not. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can run a trading business, Matt, in 20 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever it is that it takes for you individually to do it. But it's a 24-hour market, so you have to be aware of the news around the globe. You know, the European Union, the Bank of Japan, the ECB report, and the BOJ report. Looking at them, it's just another indication that the entire global economy is based on this inflationary model right now. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to watch currency values. You know, the dollar rallied like crazy. Oh, wow. The euro got crushed. I tweeted a picture out.
I saw that.
About that. Yeah.
Just, I mean, Tim, we're talking upon the announcement, euro's down 200 pips on the announcement.
News-based trade, my friend. Oh, it's amazing, and it's powerful.
Yeah, no, I love that trade. It's one of the trades that we teach there over at Tackle Trading. And it's just an amazing trade. It's a very consistent trade. That was probably the best news-based trade I've seen in the last 6 months. So
it was great. I mean, it hammered to, depending on if you're long the index on the dollar or you play futures on the index or how you play it. I think the simplest way for somebody out there who's interested, go to TackleTrading.com, talk to the coaches. We'll talk to you about the different pairs and how you can play it. The euro-dollar pair was an easy one because of the liquidity. One thing about a news-based trade for me, Matt, even though another pair might move a lot, I kind of like it tied to the dollar just because the spread makes it easier. So when it does open up, you can still get a good fill.
Well, one thing I love about the euro dollar is, number one, we're talking about two of the most liquid currencies in the market. You get good fill rates, but also, I mean, the trend prior to the announcement, it was flatlined for a good 6 hours. I mean, it was just flatline between 1.3125 and 1.315. You had a 25 pip range there that you could have placed a nice little order above and below that range just to get filled on the breakdown, and it was spectacular. I mean, within an hour after the announcement, you're talking about the euro being down about 150 pips. Ultimately, about 2 hours later, down about 225 pips. It's kind of hesitated, right now because both markets, the U.S. market and the European markets, are closed right now. But when I look at the euro here, I don't see these issues going away anytime soon. And it wasn't just the euro that got hit today. It was the Swiss franc got hit today. The British pound got hit today. And I was looking at some of the sometimes we can get so caught up on short-term trends that we like on intraday charts and whatnot, even on a day chart. I was switching over to the weekly chart today on the euro dollar, and honestly, Tim, it's not out of the equation over the course of the next maybe few months, end of the year, to test the lows at 1.2, 1.20, in that range. That's still another 900 pips down. I'm thinking about taking a position short euro, long dollar, even though my long-term opinion on the dollar is what it is. I'm thinking about taking a position trade on the euro to the short side and just letting it ride.
Yeah, I think of all the old folk music songs from the 60s where they complain about the value of the dollar. And I'm glad you added that second part of it, your long-term opinion, because frankly, I don't have a strong opinion about the dollar short term.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe the trends are intact, and so you have to play the trends. Going short the euro now, and then eventually going short the dollar again at some point, I think is the play.
Mm-hmm.
Because I really, and this is another podcast. I know you put a really good video out on tackletrading.com, Matt, explaining the petrodollar and
mm-hmm.
the trends in the dollar over the next 5 or 10 years. But I'm just not bullish on it for very long.
Oh,
so
no.
if you're going to play it, set a stop for sure.
Yeah.
Follow rule number 1.
Yeah, it's definitely short term, and right now I haven't put it yet. I'm probably going to wait until the weekend to assess kind of what happens over the weekend. But at the same time, we have a tendency here in stateside, and most of our listeners are stateside, to look at all the problems here. We talk a lot about quantitative easing here. We talk a lot about the economy here. We talk a lot about the bubble market here and the next market crash here. But the reality is, over there in Europe, it's actually worse. In Japan, it's not much better. And, you look at other marketplaces, and that's, the saving grace for the U.S. dollar right now is that the valuations of other currencies right now, that is tied a lot to the faith and confidence in their ability to pay back their bonds and whatnot. Right now the dollar, amazingly as it seems right now, given all the problems that the world faces with the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency, the U.S. dollar is seen right now as a safe haven.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are reasons, obviously, why people are moving towards dollars. And obviously, the bond market, like you're talking about, is very stable in the U.S. and backed by it. And also, what's that thing where they took all the 4 currencies and they made them into one thing?
Oh, it's not a currency. It's the SDR program. It's like a bond kind of. It's through the IMF. And they have the euro, and they have the dollar, and the pound, and they have the Japanese yen in there. It looks like the Chinese yuan is going to be put in there next year. They evaluated basically the structure, the balance of the SDR. They balance it every 5 years, so they're going to meet again next year. And it looks like the Chinese currency is going to be put in there.
Oh, by the way, still didn't get that pizza. I couldn't talk my friend that I was hanging out with today to go get pizza. So we went and got sandwiches instead.
I can't blame you. I like a good sandwich. Looking at kind of the announcement, though, when typically the U.S. market response when we have any type of quantitative easing, whether it's U.S.-based quantitative easing or whether it's European quantitative easing or whatever it is the market responds up. And at the open today, the market did, in fact, respond up at the open. But there was something, kind of talk to me about what you saw today in the market regarding the open and ultimately what happened in the market today.
Well, it was very interesting because I was up with markets at 6, my time, Mountain Time, and that's 8 o'clock Eastern Time. The futures market really starts moving around 8:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 my time. Market open, markets respond up. They start going up. Nothing too crazy. I mean, it's not like it was up hundreds of points.
Like a 0.5%.
Showing some strength, typical reaction to it. And then it just faded all day. I mean, it's just a lack of conviction. I think there are a lot of reasons. Number one, traders and investors truly don't have conviction. They don't really believe in it. I talk to people all the time, and I can't imagine institutions are really that aggressively bullish right now. Mm-hmm. And so you're seeing that action in the market that I find very interesting, the back and forth market. Some days, the market will open down, come back by midday. Today it opened up, came back by midday. It's mean reverting, Matt. That's a real fancy way to say the prices go up and down, and they don't really end up anywhere. And it's telling. There's a jobs report tomorrow here. The Labor Department in the U.S. has a report tomorrow for the monthly, what do they call it, the unemployment rate report?
Yeah.
You can read it, at Tackle Trading. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. I'll probably be tweeting about it, complaining about the government again. But and then after that, the FOMC meeting a week from Wednesday. So you don't have a ton of action between that Labor Department announcement and the FOMC meeting. There are some events sprinkled in there, but those are two major ones. Mm-hmm. I think people lack conviction going into this.
No, I agree with that 100%. Kind of talking about your mean reverting, just since we'll say since last Wednesday. Last Wednesday, the market opens down, and I'm talking about specifically about the S&P 500. It opens down about 10 points last Wednesday. By the end of the day, it had rebounded only to close down probably about 2 points. The next day, the market opens down 5 points. It finishes up 3 points. The next day, on Friday of last week, the market opens up about 5 points just to finish down all the way down about 5 points. The next day, on Monday, the market opens up, and it opens up about 8 points just to finish, basically about break even. And then today, the market opens up, and opens up about 10 points to ultimately finish down right around 3 or 4 points in the S&P 500. And you look at that open, and in a normal market environment, the open is so important to the rest of the transactions throughout the rest of the day. But right now, we're seeing whatever the open does, automatically everybody starts doing the opposite. If it opens down, you see a buy the dip type mentality. If it opens up, you see a lock in profit type mentality. And it's something's got to shake. Something's got to break this little cycle, because what's happening is the S&P 500 is doing absolutely nothing over the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what will break the cycle may not be necessarily planned for or obvious in the chart. It may be an institution that just comes in and starts to move their money around and really leverage this market one way or the other. I don't have a strong opinion on the technicals until I see it. I've trained myself over the years, Matt, to just simply, in a condition like this, don't let my opinions become that prevalent in a way that they're going to force me to always play it down. I believe it should go down. I expect it to go down. But if it breaks up again, Matt, I got to trade it that way.
You do. And right now, if you look at pure technical analysis in specifically the S&P 500, the pattern that it's forming is actually a bullish continuation pattern.
Yeah.
It's a high base. And for anybody that's been tracking this market over the course of the last ever since really kind of 2011, the little bottom that we had in 2011, the high base breakout has been one of the most consistent patterns in the market. So my expectation is we're going to get a sell-off, but if it breaks out of that continuation cycle right around 2010, it's probably going to run up a little bit. And like you said, it could be just some funds, some institutional traders that just want to rebalance their portfolio. You could see one of these economic events, whether it's the unemployment rate tomorrow or whether it's the Fed next week or a week from Wednesday, whatever it is, you might see that as a reason, because they're high liquid conditions, you might see that as a reason for an institution or hedge funds or whatnot to start taking action. And you might even see just some of these high frequency trading systems like the one the Fed kind of backs. It's called Citadel. That takes about 13% of all market, basically the 13% of all market makers is Citadel, and they might be driving the market up. And there's the reason we don't know it, and we're never going to know it. But I certainly think we're going to see some action one way or the other coming up fairly soon.
Yeah. Thinking about all of it, it does. I think and here's what I'm always trying to think of, Matt. Where's the next opportunity? And what can I do to get better and improve and learn how to take advantage of the market conditions in front of me? Very often as a mentor and a teacher, I hear people complaining about the market conditions, that this market's tough and this market's been difficult to trade. And I understand, and I always try to talk to them and understand their perspective and whatnot. But at the end of the day, backward thinking is not going to make us any money.
No.
We try to learn from the past, try to understand the conditions, then we move forward trying to do something with the current conditions. Gino has been putting up there on tackletrading.com some of these plays like the inverted iron condor, what we call a long condor, where you can make money up or down. If we know impending volatility is going to rise, but implied volatility is really low, it's a good time to be doing some of that type of stuff. Now, it's an advanced strategy. It's not for beginners. It's not for somebody who hasn't had training or education, but it is an interesting thing that if you do have those, that you can approach the market with right now. I also like You know, I have run across quite a few people who have very strong opinions about the long-term bearishness of this market.
Mm-hmm.
And one strategy I want everybody out there listening to look up, it's called a put ratio back spread. You know, it's one thing to want to go out there and build a risk graph that has profits to the downside.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing I like about ratio back spreads for long-term trades is that they also have protection to the upside. So if you're wrong, and Mr. Market and the Mr. Wall Street, they just keep running it up, and you're wrong, and then you don't get beat up too badly.
Yeah, well, and that's a good point, because if you go directional puts, just long puts, and you're wrong, you can get beat up pretty hard. And a lot of these trades, like the back ratio spreads and whatnot, they have built-in hedges to them, to where if you're wrong, you don't lose as much as you otherwise would. So, you know, that's a good strategy. I like that strategy. Can you explain to everybody kind of what that strategy entails, just kind of what it is?
Well, first off, advice. We should call this the advice show. I guess the advice show, where we just get together and talk about what you guys should be thinking about. The advice: learn the risk graph. You know, we're giving out names of strategies. We're talking about ratio back spreads and long condors and iron condors. You probably hear a million terms from us. Some of you, because we have experienced smart traders. We have a real smart community that listens to this podcast, Matt.
Okay.
And because of that, I know many of you are trading those strategies. Some may not. If you ever are going to try something new, you really want to use the risk graph and plot it out so that you can understand it. You know where your break-evens are, know where your reward is, know where your risk is. The put ratio back spread, I mean, how much you want? You want the short version, simple?
Short and simple for right now.
Basically, you're using a combination of selling a few puts and buying a lot of cheap puts, so that you can make money if it drops like a rock, but you break even or make a little bit if it goes up as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's somewhat bidirectional in one sense. If it goes up, you break even. If it goes down a long ways, you make money.
It's not a bad strategy right there, right?
No, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. I know it's one of yours and one of Noah's favorite strategies to play. I know Noah plays a lot of back ratio spreads. I don't play a lot of back ratio spreads. I typically do more just pure delta type scenarios than I do, you know, the bidirectional. Even though the back ratio is a delta strategy.
Can I tell you one of my pet peeves?
Mm-hmm.
It just made me, this whole conversation is making me think of something. You hear from some new traders that options. I hear options are risky. And then I'm just thinking of the strategy I'm describing, the put ratio back spread.
It's a conservative strategy.
It's conservative, and you're protecting yourself. I mean,
listen,
yeah.
Options are risky if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
you know, if you go down and you sit at a poker table in Vegas and you look across yourself and there's people wearing World Series rings, you know, like poker World Series rings, you're probably playing risky poker. You know, but if you go down, you sit with a bunch of, you know, just hacks and whatnot, and you know a little bit of what you're doing, the odds are probably in your favor. And the same thing goes with the markets. In the options market is actually the most conservative market out there. You know, you can't do anything else like you can in the options market from a high probability standpoint.
I'll give you an analogy I use as well, since I love analogies. I think they're a great way to teach with. I think walking is risky if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, I had to walk from my office in downtown Salt Lake to the bank today.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lose my parking spot because there's Comic-Con downtown. And if I moved my car, there would have been about 12 Jedis swoop in and steal it.
Which is kind of awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
So I walked to the bank, which is about 8 blocks. And between my office and the bank, 8 blocks away, there are some busy streets. There are 3 or 4 very busy streets. All I have to do is know the basic rules of the game. When it's red, you don't walk. You stay on a sidewalk. You don't go out into the intersection until it's your turn. You still have to keep your head on a swivel. It's just like anything. So if I didn't know what I was doing and I walked from here to the bank and I just ran out in the middle, I might get hit by a bus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yes, anything's risky if you don't follow the basic rules of the game. But if you do, you're fine. Same thing with options trading. And that's where I encourage everybody out there to just get very passionate about learning all of the strategies. You don't have to know everything to do well in options. but you have to understand some of the basics and some of the rules like I'm talking about. So when there is a red light, Matt, you know to stop, and when there's a green light, you know to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's a good analogy because we all walk, right? And we all understand those rules. And the options market and trading in general has just rules associated to it. You got to learn the rules of the game, but at the end of the day, you got to get in the game. Because what else are you going to do? How else are you going to grow your money? You're going to go get a second job? You're going to watch yourself lose 50% of your money? Are you going to watch yourself over time lose value through devaluation? Are you okay, paying double for bread and milk down, 10 years down the road? So to me, anything in their market that is a perceived negative, like a devalued dollar, sell the dollar. If there's if inflation's your current concern, buy oil, buy the food price index, buy commodities. If the next bear market is your concern, learn how to trade in a bear market. You just got to learn the rules of the game, kind of like you said. When it's red, you don't walk. When it's green, you walk. And you and the drivers, they all know the rules.
And one of the smartest things you can do when you're new, Matt, is take it easy. Don't try to go out there and play a very aggressive strategy. Maybe you'd play a very safe strategy. Mm-hmm. I was working with one of my students today, in mentoring, and he wanted to play 25-30 Delta Iron Condors because the big credits, those of you who trade Iron Condors know what I'm talking about.
Does he also like to lose money?
You go higher Delta, you get bigger credits, it makes you feel better about the numbers. And I said, listen, you can hit your goals with 5 to 10 Deltas. We're going to build them conservatively while you're new, and you're going to have a conservative exit plan. That's my advice. And sometimes I feel like I got to prod, new traders with an iron.
Have some perspective. Seriously, I mean, you're talking on a 10 Delta on an Iron Condor, you can still get 10% rate of return in a month.
Yeah.
On a 10 Delta, I mean, you think about that yearly, and that's 120% yearly on a Condor, and that's without compounding the interest and the gains. And these people, like your student, they come from an environment where 10% in a year is good. So have some perspective. You don't have to be aggressive in the options market to make some significant money. And I go back to the 2 podcasts we did a couple weeks back with Jake Pelly and Steve Wong. The deltas they were selling was 2 and 3 deltas, having 97, 98% probability and still cash flowing 5% monthly. You don't have to be aggressive in the options market to make money.
No, and it's still very exciting though when you bring a new trader in, even if they're making a few mistakes. The thing I always go back to is to encourage them to continue to practice so that they can build confidence and comprehension. It's okay to make mistakes in a virtual system until you get your system up to speed and running and you know how to execute trades. There's a lot we could go over there. In fact, I really do want to have an entire podcast just about cash flow options, where we just dive into one strategy and we examine it. Yeah, that'd be fun. I would enjoy that.
And we'll definitely get into podcasts that are pure strategy driven. But the reality, Tim, is right now there's so much news out there we have to cover.
Well, there always will be. Let's not pretend like there won't be.
I don't. Not like it is now, Tim. Tell me another time in the market where you had a Russian general come out and talk about having first strike capabilities against NATO. That's never happened in our life.
Well, maybe not from Russia, not in your and I, adult life, but when we were little kids, how many bad 80s movies were built on the idea of Russia invading the U.S., Matt?
Well, I get the propaganda behind it. I mean, Rocky IV was awesome, and then we had like Red Dawn. I mean, 2 great movies, right? But at the same time, you think back to just over the last 15, 20 years, since we've become aware of what's going on out there in the world. I mean, seriously, today, one of the reasons the market went down, it only went down a little bit, but still, one of the reasons why it did shift, is you had a Russian general come out and literally start talking about, the process for a first strike, a nuclear first strike against NATO. That outside of Air Force One or something like that, some movie, we haven't really been dealing with that type of stuff. And so, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, we're dealing with an unprecedented geopolitical situation where the entire world seems hell bent on making significant changes, both in the political sphere and the economic sphere.
Yeah.
So I don't know how important a covered call is in that environment. That's all I'm saying.
I'd have to, well, of course, but I'm
Yeah.
going to wrap my head around the whole thing with Russia because I haven't formed a very strong opinion. I worry about what we get through the media, to be honest. I hadn't seen exactly what this general said. I don't know who the source was. I do trust when you tell me what's going on, but man, I don't know. Until I can dig into it, I usually have a skeptical kind of eye towards any information I'm getting anymore.
The information coming out of Ukraine and Russia is basically it's coming from everywhere, and you're dead right. How do you trust the source, right? Vladimir comes out and says one day, we go by first names these days. Vladimir comes out and says, you know what, I think we'll have a peace treaty on Friday. That's what he says. And then the Ukrainian premier comes out and says, that's just smokescreen. We don't trust the Russians. Why would they? And then you have a Russian general come out and talk about, nuclear strike first options. It's like, okay, what really is happening? Because that's what we're hearing, and we're hearing it from sources that otherwise, do you trust them? Do you not trust them? But all I know is the information is coming out one way and the other, and it's having a market impact both ways. But the amazing thing is, Tim, you look at the market the last week. What are we, break even in the last week?
Oh yeah,
with all this
Doji
information
convention going on here.
Seriously, it's a Doji fest, and it's been a fascinating market, but at the same time, it's been a market that's kind of boring. I mean, the ATR on the market today was, what it go from, about 17 points, and it finished literally 3 points down. It's just it's been amazing, and that's why I say it's got to break that cycle, that little short-term cycle. It always does. It has to break the cycle, but at the ECB coming out and saying what they did yesterday, where they're going to cut rates and they're going to start QE.
All right, I got a game for you.
Yeah, go
ahead. Finish your thought first.
Well, I was just going to say, if the ECB saying that can't break the cycle, and if a Russian general saying what he did can't break the cycle, what is going to break the cycle? I honestly don't know right now.
Well, I don't know either. In fact, it's a very complicated economic problem that we have, and one of those scenarios that I don't want to think about is actually stagflation, Matt. That maybe the cycle is to just let the air slowly come out of the balloon for the next 10 or 15 years. I mean, that could be the environment that we live in. I don't believe it, but I always like to think about every scenario that may be out there. A world where we live in stagflation, it kind of sounds like a pretty awful world to really get excited about. But here's the thing about it. It goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. I don't care what the economy does. If the market wants to be flat from now till forever, I'll find a way to make money in it.
I agree. But you're talking about one of the most difficult type of environments to make money in. I mean, traders will still sell options, but you're not going to get anything from them. And when you're really talking about the stagnation of the economy and whatnot, you're talking about something that was based in the 70s. And even though we weren't around in the 70s, I was born in 77 and you in 79. It was one of the worst environments out there from an economic standpoint, where you had, enormous inflation and wages were flatlined and the economy was stagnant. And that was a very difficult time. But guess what led to that? Quantitative easing. Yeah. Keynesian economic policies, and that's kind of what we're seeing now as well. It'll be interesting. I'm really looking. I've been of the opinion that the market's going to kind of go up. It's kind of going to go down up and through October. I thought October, and I've been thinking this for about 3-4 months now. October's an important month. You both got you both got the Fed coming out of the market if they maintain their current stance, which I think they will, Tim. I don't think the Fed's going to do an about face and say no. We're gonna keep pumping money into it. They've been very consistent with their tapering of quantitative easing, and there is nothing that suggests that coming in October that they're not going to come out of the market. Now, whether they do something down the road if the market starts to tank is another question. But it's going to be interesting from a QE's perspective in October. But I also think you got a very important earnings season coming up in October as well. So it's going to be interesting from that pace. And speaking of earnings, one of these podcasts maybe next week, maybe even tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday, one of these days, let's do a Vega-based podcast where we talk about how to make money off the increasing volatility coming into earnings.
I would love that. And and I wonder, I always catch myself, and I guess I should just assume that we got a broad audience.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever we start throwing lingo around, I wonder who's our audience, who's out there listening, who's loving it. I think that we got a lot of beginners, a lot of intermediate, probably quite a few advanced traders out there as well. So if we want to dive into Vega, Matt, at the end of the day, you and I, we get to talk about whatever the hell we want to.
Even for the new traders, though, I mean, understanding how you can make, even if we don't call it Vega, right? But even if we call it whatever we do, we're always going to use market terminology, by the way. But at the same time, for the vets out there preparing for October, October earnings season, whatnot, they're going to love that. But even for the new traders out there, understanding that these types of strategies are out there, and these types, I mean, Tim, just think about it. Think about it right now. Think about the strength of like a strangle right now on 10 to 15 different positions coming into October. What's the risk of that? Volatility is very, very low right now.
It's a great trade.
It's an awesome trade, and I've been thinking about that. Coming into earnings, we're going to see volatility increase, and if we see any type of movement one way or the other based on market conditions, because we both expect the market to break out of this little cycle right now. If we see a breakout one way or the other, we're going to benefit from that. And if we see the volatility increase, we're going to benefit from that. I think the strangle right now, the long strangle, is going to be probably my favorite trade to place over the next 2 weeks, and then just kind of sit back and watch over the next month and a half.
By the way, I've always said that I wanted to make a trader's T-shirt company. Yeah. And I just had the best one I've ever had. I've always said, cool guys keep it theta positive. That was one I was going to do. I was going to do one where you just had like a picture of the wrist graph iron condor on it. Or something.
Girls love theta.
No. I got it better.
All right.
Chicks dig the long call.
The long call. I like that. We got to start getting some T-shirts up at Tackle Trading. I mean, that has to happen. First of all, we got to have the Trading Justice podcast T-shirt. We got to have the Tackle Trading T-shirt. Chicks dig the long call. I like that one. Theta Girl, because we got a lot of female traders out there. And by the way, female traders are typically statistically better traders than their male counterparts.
Oh yeah.
I've always liked the Market Assassin T-shirt as well.
Right.
So I think we're going to get 5 or 6 T-shirts in time. Obviously, we're in the middle of building that website. And that
I would love a traders logo contest, like in our forum or something like that. Maybe we could drum that up for middle of the month.
I like it.
Get it fired up, get people thinking about it. The best logo wins like a half hour mentoring with me or something like that.
Oh, you're throwing
that would be cool.
Better you than me. I don't like doing free stuff.
Well, it's not going to be free. I'm going to take all those logos. I'm going to turn them into T-shirts and monetize them. I ain't afraid to do that.
I don't blame you. So we'll do a Vega coming up probably Saturday, Tim. Let's do a Vega podcast. So prepare for that. I'll do the same. And I think that's going to be the podcast that basically my entire trading philosophy is going to be structured around for the next month and a half.
I love it. And if we promise the people prime rib on Saturday, let's not give them prime rib today. Let's get let's tease that, leave that for that call. But I did want to bring up my game. I said I had a little a question.
Okay, this is a question game.
Just a question. Just a question.
So it's not a game. It's
I'm going to give you 4 names.
All right, 4 names.
And you get to keep 3 and throw 1 out.
Okay.
I don't know what to call it. It's actually a radio show game. I don't know how. No, actually, we'll do it different. I don't want to steal one of the bits from a radio show I listen to. I don't. And I love the Ron and Fez show. They call it Lifeboat. So I'll do it different. We'll call this. You pick one, Matt. Okay. You just pick one.
Okay.
You get to have lunch and drinks and spend the afternoon with one of the following people.
How many drinks?
As many as they get loaded. You can get them tossed, and they'll open up their entire vault like Elaine in Seinfeld.
Gotcha.
Okay. Vladimir Putin.
Okay.
George Soros.
Okay.
President Obama.
You're hitting my wheelhouse here.
Or Dan Marino.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Well, Vladimir, again, we go by first names. He's in the lifeboat. We're hanging out. We're going to shoot the shots. That would be, come on, he's KGB, man. Tell me the stories after you got him drunk. That would be awesome. Soros picking his brain about making money in bear markets and really diving into kind of his philosophy on trading and how big of a dirtbag he truly is, or if it's just kind of a facade. He would be one. So it comes to Dan Marino versus President Obama. Both conversations I would believe would be highly boring. I think both of them. Dan Marino. I was actually in one of my classes. I don't know if I told you this. In one of my classes, I had a ex-Dolphin from the mid 1990s in that team, and he was a tight end. I won't say his name. Great guy, awesome guy, loved him. And we were just talking about things, and he brought in his old books and showed me his picture next to Marino and whatnot. And he said that Marino was kind of a dick. That's all he said. And I said, well, he was the best quarterback of his generation, you know. I don't know how many stories Marino could have, you know, just outside of old football stories that really are kind of boring and whatnot. President Obama, if I could get President Obama to get into the real Obama, you know, I think I would do Obama, man. I think Marino's my childhood hero.
You're throwing Marino over the edge?
Marino's getting thrown out. I don't.
He's going in the drink.
I don't think Marino would be that interesting. But I think if you could get Vladimir, myself, George Soros, and Obama drunk in a lifeboat, that would be a hell of a conversation.
Yeah, you know, this is an indication that you've truly
grown
up as a man.
It was tough for me.
Yes, you've shed your childhood hero. You've thrown him over the edge and realized that he was a fake and a fraud.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that in any capacity.
You know,
and don't
see you later, Dan Marino. You tied a weight to his ankle and you let him sink all the way to the bottom of that lake.
First of all, I didn't say that. And it's like you had to throw somebody over, right?
I'm not sure you can be a Dolphins fan anymore. That's all I'm saying.
This isn't true.
Listen, you could have said Jesus, Allah, God, and Jim McMahon, and Jim McMahon's first in with me. There's no way.
Who's first out? I don't know if you should answer that. No, Jim McMahon. Dude, if it was Jim McMahon, I would say Jim McMahon too. You're kind of telling the stories about Jim McMahon back in his BYU days and his Chicago days. Come on, that would be a great conversation. All I'm saying is I don't think the conversation with Dan Marino would be that amazing.
Oh, I already know what song we're ending the podcast on. I'm not saying.
It better not be the
don't guess.
It better not be the 85 Bears theme.
Super Bowl Shuffle?
Not going to do it.
All right.
Not going to do it. I know you too well. All right. Speaking of football, we're gonna stop talking about trading right now. We're gonna get we got a couple really good podcasts coming down the road. The Vega podcast we're gonna do here over the next couple days. Also, by the way,
you got to drop your contest, Matt.
Well, I don't.
The question, the hashtag.
Yeah, you know, one thing that we really want to start doing at the podcast is we got close to 800 active listeners on the podcast, and I know you guys have your questions. I know it because I get 100 emails a day. But I want to start making this trend, guys, and so I want to start answering your questions, and the only questions I'm going to answer, or Tim, on the actual podcast is through Twitter. So if you have a question, go to Twitter, #TradingJustice. Trading Justice. Put the hashtag, ask your question, and each podcast will spend a few minutes answering the listeners' questions because, once again, the reason we do this is for you guys. We're very appreciative, and we want to start making this a little more interactive. So, once again, that's hashtag Trading Justice at Twitter. For those of you who do not use Twitter, start using it. We're going to start using it a lot, putting out trades out there and information out there. So you could get us, Tim. What's your Twitter real quick?
At Tim Justice Utah.
At Tim Justice Utah. Mine is at Matt Justice 13. We also have at Tackle Trading. We have at Trading Justice. For the specific podcast questions, that's hashtag Trading Justice, and get your questions answered here on the podcast each and every week. And that could be about anything, guys, whether it's a specific trade, or if you want us to quickly teach a strategy, or if you want us to assess a trade, or anything your little heart desires. But now we're going to kind of shift, and Tim, we got a major event tonight. And can you tell the listeners what that major event, 8:30 Eastern, up in the Northwest?
First of all, I don't know if I feel sorry for or would be jealous of anybody who doesn't realize it's football season.
Football, baby.
Yes, I mean, it's now become the national pastime. I know that it used to be baseball, but everybody loves the NFL. Seattle game tonight. It kicks off the NFL season. The world champs. They're hosting the Green Bay Packers, who I cannot stand. A lot of respect, but big Bears fan. So
yeah, better hope your little nephew Ty doesn't listen to that.
Well, I mean, Ty and I have always shown Ty respect. I'm not the kind of fan to even, throw him under the bus. If my childhood hero was in a lifeboat, I would keep him.
Have you ever met anybody outside of his own father that was as crazy at his age about his NFL team?
Well, yeah, he is. He's nuts. I mean, when they lose, he literally you can't talk to him for days.
He's shut down. Chris doesn't like to think he used to do that. It's really funny to kind of put him on the spot. But, he's just like his old man when his old man was growing up.
I'm never going to judge somebody for a passion they have, even if it's fandom. We all have to have our things.
Whatever makes them happy. Okay, So what I want to do, Tim, is because it's a national pastime starting tonight, it's a year-round sport, by the way, but today's Christmas Day, today's New Year's Day, today's the beginning of all. And I wanted to get on the record your football picks and mine, and we'll come back later on in the year and see how well we did. So we're going to do a little bit of a football pick show here. Tim, we're going to start with the National Football Conference, the NFC. We're going to start with the NFC East, Dallas Cowboys, Washington Redskins, Philadelphia Eagles, and the New York Giants. Who do you see winning that division?
So let me set the stage for everybody.
Okay.
There's a lot of ways to play pick'em.
Yep.
You can pick the games every week. You can pick based on the Vegas odds and the spread. You can pick all kinds of things. All Matt and I are going to do are we're going to pick the winners of the division. Keep it short and have fun with that. We're going to pick the best team we think out of each division. Then we're going to pick the playoff teams, right, Matt?
Yes, we are. Playoff teams.
And then Super Bowl.
Super
Bowl entries and then winners, right?
Yep.
Okay.
So
the NFC East. Real quickly, Eagles love, Giants hate, Redskins can die along with that name. Cowboys, dark horse. I'm taking the Eagles to win that division. I know it's the easy pick, but I'm going with Chip Kelly, the high-powered offense.
I can't
Do you
blame
know they set a record for plays per game last year, I think?
I think
like
they'll
that?
break it this year.
Yeah.
Another year under the Chip Kelly belt there. Washington Redskins, come on, guys. Change the name. It's time. It's offensive. And honestly speaking, if you're going to offend anybody with such a name, change it. And you know what, Dan Snyder? You're a businessman. The moment you change the name, the sales of all your merchandise are going to go up tenfold because every one of your fans are going to buy the new merchandise. Be a businessman, change the name.
By the way, I have to tell you, it does not offend me.
No, it doesn't. But it's a different.
I don't want to go off on it, but it doesn't offend me.
I agree.
When somebody wears Redskins gear, I do think it needs to be changed because we evolve. Our consciousness,
our society evolves. Our society evolves,
and it's just no longer acceptable. So you change it.
Yeah.
You do it in business too.
Well, and it's been done with names and words throughout history. Yeah. So it's time to change the name. So even though I do love me some RG3, you know how much I love RG3. I can't get enough RG3. I have a big man crush on RG3 and everything Robert Griffin. He's got to step up his game, and if he does, I think the Redskins could be a dark horse. Giants look terrible. I'm going to go chalk here, too. I'm going to go with the Eagles. Let's go with NFC South, the Falcons, Bucks, Saints, Panthers.
Well, what do you want to do here? Do you want to go first once and I'll go first once?
Yeah, I'll go first on this one. Okay. I like the Bucks this year. I think your old coach is going to go down there and do some good things, but I think they're a year away. I think the Panthers are going to take a step back. I think the Falcons are going to win a few more games this year. Julio Jones is a man among boys. He's just unreal good. Speaking of your trade in fantasy, we'll have to talk about that offline. I'm going Saints here. I think they're going to take the division at around 12-4, 11-5.
Okay, now first of all, for everybody listening out there, if you didn't know it by now, Matt and I are football nerds, and proudly so. We grew up with 6 boys in our family. All of them played sports. Our dad was a football coach, teaching us growing up, baseball and basketball. And sports and team sports are a huge part of our life.
Love team sports.
And we love the NFL. We always have, even since we were little kids. And when we get to the AFC West, I'll explain my most hated team, and I'll tell you why.
Yes.
So we get that. So your pick, I'm writing these down, Matt.
Okay.
We both picked the Eagles on that first one. What did you pick on the South?
On the South, I'm gonna go Saints. I think the Saints. I love their offense. Their defense took a step forward last year. I think they actually improved. And until Drew Brees doesn't have an arm, I'm gonna trust the way he throws the ball.
You know, New Orleans lost that little scat back.
Yeah, Sproles.
Sproles lost to the Eagles. Yeah, they have the best tight end in the league, Jimmy Graham. They've got a high-powered offense. Brees could go off for 6,500 yards. Who the heck knows? Mm-hmm. I'm not picking the Saints though. I'm going with my Carolina Panthers to repeat for the first time in like 7 or 8 years.
You just love Cam too much.
Oh, Cam Newton is the superstar in this league.
Talk about a crush, man.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. I mean, they got a great defense, great defensive line. Cam Newton is a stud. I just see the Saints overtaking. I think that's a good division, though. I really think I think the Bucs are going to step up. I think it's a good division. All right, so we differ on that one. Let's go with the NFC West. Rams, Hawks, Niners, and Cardinals.
Okay, my turn to go first. Michael Sam, cut from the Rams. What are your thoughts real quick?
I thought the Rams gave every opportunity. I liked what they did. I thought they treated the whole situation with the respect it deserved. And for those of you who don't think it's a historical moment, you're wrong. It is. It's the rights of everybody should be honored. And so I thought the Rams did it well, and I have no complaints there. He got beat out. Man to man, he got beat out. It's as simple as that.
People make this big deal about him being the SEC Defensive Player of the Year. There were other major conference Defensive Players of the Year that didn't make leagues.
Heisman winners don't make it in the NFL. He got beat out. I think he deserves to be on an NFL team, though. He had a great preseason. They're just loaded on the defensive line.
Yeah, I can't even say that. He deserves a chance.
Yeah,
he's got to earn it. Anything in life, he's got to earn it. I know he's working hard.
The only thing I disagreed with Tim is the fact that after the waivers, he wasn't picked up by any practice squad. That I had to question because he had 3 sacks in the preseason, led the team in tackles in the preseason. For all indications, he was doing really, really good.
He's on a Cowboys practice squad.
Well, now he is, but it took 3 days.
Well, I think you got to guarantee the contracts or something. That's got to be the thing. Well, my only thing I disagreed with him is that he didn't take that show from Oprah. Why not leverage your big, beautiful gayness and just go out and market it?
I agree. I agree. Go make that money, Sam.
I'm going to pick the San Francisco 49ers in that division.
Oh, no. Step back for the Niners, dude. That place is a nightmare right now. Although I do think they're good. This division's awesome, by the way. The Rams' defense is outstanding. All these defenses are outstanding. I'm going Hawks, man. I think the Hawks are great. I think they've actually gotten better. Russell and Bustle Wilson as Bill Simmons like Hustle and Russell and Bustle. I think he's just absolutely outstanding.
So I got you down as a Rams choice. I heard Rams.
No, Hawks.
You want Rams, right?
Hawks. Yeah,
okay,
you heard
Hawks,
me.
Okay.
You heard me.
All right. So
saved your division for the last: Bears, Vikes, Packs, and Lions.
Well, let me get mine out of the way.
I think it's mine.
I'm going to pick the Bears.
Done. You're done. You have no ability to look beyond the Bears. Good offense. I think their defense is going to be bad this year, though. I don't think they're going to be very good defensively, which means I think they're going to struggle with the fact that they have high-powered offenses going against Detroit and Green Bay. And so I'm going to go with the Pack. I think the Packers are going to take a step forward this year. Love their offense. I have questions on their defense, but I think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the game, not named Peyton Manning.
Yeah, no, he's amazing, and Rodgers killed us. I was out in Chicago last year in 5-degree weather in December, watching the Packers break my heart in the fourth quarter. Aaron Rodgers threw that touchdown, and the whole stadium just deflated. You could just hear this collective, gasp.
He's unreal, man.
He's amazing.
He's absolutely unreal. He's one of the best quarterbacks I've seen. The zip on his ball, I mean, it comes out like freaking Marino. Seriously.
So you got Vikings? Is that official?
Yeah, you keep doing that. Packers is
right.
Official. Who's your 2 wildcard teams?
Out of that, that's a tougher call. I'm going to take a wild card from the North, and I'm going to give the Packers a wild card.
Okay, good. I am going to give the Bears a wild card.
And I'll take a wild card from, I think the West will beat each other up. I hate the rest of the East. I'm going to take a wild card from the South.
Are you saying the Seahawks aren't even going to make the playoffs?
Get them out of here.
Oh my goodness.
Get the sea chickens.
Oh.
Send them out to the lake.
Okay,
I'm going to take a wild card from the Falcons.
From the Falcons. I like it. I, too, am not going to take 2 NFC West teams. I think the 49ers are going to take a step back, and I'm going to say that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to take a great step forward. They're going to win some games and make that last wild card spot. So I got the Bears and the Bucs making the playoffs as wild cards.
Got it.
All right. Let's out of the NFC. Who's your Super Bowl pick?
Ooh, NFC. I got to pick that now. Let's hold off on that.
All right, we'll hold off. We'll hold off on that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go AFC. Let's first start with the AFC South. Titans, Jags, Colts, Texans. The worst division in football. Who are you going with?
You know, it is the worst division in football, and I have to pick the Colts. They're the only team with an established quarterback that you can really hang your hat on. That Andrew Luck is an amazing player.
Have you
I
heard
think they're
him
playing it
give
way
us-
too conservative. They got to let that kid loose.
Have you heard him talk, though? Have you
Yeah,
like,
he's
heard
smart.
He's really smart, but he sounds really dumb.
He does look like the guy from the Geico commercial a little bit.
Just-
I'm not going to say he's an attractive man.
We're going to win some games this year. Yeah.
Okay,
We're
but
gonna
he,
take the
and
ball
he
down
does
to score.
He does talk
Yeah.
like that, but he
Give me
is
the
a very,
football.
very smart man.
Yeah,
He's very polite. He's very
I'm
professional.
not saying he's not. He's just like, it's amazing how he talks. It's just like, oh my goodness, such a smart guy. Sounds so, wow.
I couldn't touch any of the other teams,
No,
though.
dude.
I could talk about them all,
I kind
but
of
I
like the
couldn't touch them.
Titans, but no, it's the worst division in football. Colts run away with it. Let's go with the AFC North. Ravens, Steelers, Browns, Bengals. My turn first. Chalk would say Bengals. I'm going to say Steelers. I think the Steelers are going to take this division at 10-6.
God, you just stole my thunder.
Yeah.
Now I got to pick somebody else.
Well, you don't have to. We have a lot of differences everywhere.
It's so close. I would want to believe in the Steelers, but I don't believe in their defense.
I believe in Big Ben.
Palomalu is getting older.
He's older.
Who they got? Is Ryan Clark even on their team anymore?
No,
I'm not
dude,
even sure.
Clark plays for the Redskins now.
Yeah. Kiesel, I don't even know. I think their defense is aging, and they haven't really reloaded. Just with rookies.
They got that new rookie coming out, that Shazier, I think it is. He looks awesome.
Name the top 5 linebacker rookies from last year, and not any of them made a huge impact. Well, actually, that's not true.
There's
Kiko
a couple.
Alonso
Kiko Alonso
did.
Yeah, he was a stud last year. He had a couple of injury problems, but he's pretty good. So who are you going with?
I'm going with the Ravens. In Harbaugh's, I trust.
Does your
Jim
buddy
in
Aaron,
the West and John in the AFC North. I'm going with the Ravens.
I can't stand either Harbaugh, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah, you don't like greatness? Is that what you don't like? You don't like family? You don't like,
I like
people
family.
who work hard?
I like family. Jim
There's
Harbaugh
something wrong
seems
with you,
like the
bud.
biggest douche in football.
Oh, come on now.
I'm throwing it out there. He looks like a complete ass. He acts like an ass on the sidelines. He needs to get the khaki pants off because I'm sick of it.
He does wear those a little bit high.
He does. It's like up to above the belly button, man. I just don't get it. AFC West, my turn first. Broncos, Chargers, Raiders, and Chiefs.
You just went first.
No, I did. Okay, your turn first.
Yeah, you did.
Your turn first.
All right, the AFC West. My most hated division in football. Growing up in Utah, Matt.
Absolutely.
When we didn't have cable, we had to watch the Bronco games and the Raider games and the Chief games. every stinking week. I mean, even if there was a great marquee game, it could have been the Cowboys.
You did not have it as bad as I did, though. You can complain all you want. You were a Bears fan, which means you watched it on Channel 13. I was the Miami Dolphin fan in the 90s, and instead of watching Miami play Buffalo for the gosh damn division, guess what I had to watch? Bronco Raider games. I mean, it was just, I hated them growing up. Just absolutely horrifically hated them growing up. But regardless, you got to pick a team.
I would love to not pick them, but the Broncos are going to run away with that division.
I kind of like the Chargers. I like what they're doing on offense. I like what they're doing on defense. They are not in the Broncos league. The Broncos are elite, man. Absolutely elite. So I'm going to go Broncos as well. And then we come back down to my favorite division, AFC East. I'm a Dolphin fan, as everybody knows. Bills, Jets, Patriots, Dolphins. Tim, who are you going with?
Well, I went first last time.
All right, my turn. Bills are terrible. I would kneecap Rex Ryan, so I'm not picking the Jets. I can't stand the Patriots, and I'm sure Tom Brady's a fine gentleman, but I would take the crowbar to kneecap Rex Ryan, and I would take it to Belichick. He's a cheat too, by the way. He hasn't won since he cheated. I'm going with the Dolphins, man. Go with the Dolphins. Dolphins win that division 10-6. The Dolphins play the Patriots this weekend. Dolphins get an ugly home win against the Patriots. And that's how the Dolphins always win at home, is just through ugliness. Come on, South Beach fans, South Beach people. Show up at the damn Dolphin games for once.
Well, first of all, if you lived in South Beach with all the beautiful people that go to the beach, are you going to show up on time for anything? Are you just right? They don't show up to the Heat games. They don't show up to the Dolphin games. I would never live in Florida.
That state drives me crazy. It's hot and muggy, and even hotter and muggier. I can't stand it. I can't breathe down there.
You're a pasty white guy from the woods, Matt.
I am a pasty white guy from freaking Forestville. Yeah. But anyways.
I'm going to take the Pats.
Of course you are.
I'm not trying to take chalk, but I'm going to take the Pats. I love Bill Belichick. I think people who don't like Bill Belichick don't like greatness.
I don't like manipulating and cheaters. It's for the same reason I don't like the Fed. You look at Bill Belichick. It would not shock me if he had the same DNA as Alan Greenspan.
No, he's the George Soros of the NFL coaches.
Okay, no, you can't say that because I kind of like George Soros.
Exactly. That's why you should like Bill Belichick.
You can't say that. Alan Greenspan.
So to recap, now we got to pick wild cards for the AFC.
Okay, you went first last time. I'll go first on the wild cards. Patriots coming out of the East as a wild card. I think they'll tie the Dolphins 10-6. Dolphins take the tiebreaker. And I am going to go with the San Diego Chargers coming out of the wild card out of the West.
I'm taking the Bengals.
Okay.
I love what they're doing there. They dropped well lately.
Love the defense.
It's strange how that franchise has turned it around. The last 5 years, they've gotten a really young, strong roster. And remembering the Bengals from the 90s, that's just a weird thing to admit. So I'm going to take the Bengals and very tough call outside of that. Can you get 3 from one division?
You can get 3 from one division, yes.
I'm going to take the Ravens.
Interesting.
I'm going to take 3 AFC North teams.
I don't see any one of those teams finishing above 9-7.
Well, the rest of them are garbage, so I'm taking them both. I'm hedging my bets.
I like it.
Who'd you have?
I have the Pats and the Chargers coming out of the wild cards. All right,
cool.
Super Bowl pick. You go first in the NFC. Who is your Super Bowl representative from the NFC?
Looking it over, Matt, and I've thought really hard about this, trying to be as neutral and objective as I can. There isn't a stronger roster from top to bottom with a better coach and more emerging quarterback, even though he does have diabetes. He's got that under control.
Yeah.
It's a bad image in the press for it.
Well,
a real young, hungry defense. We brought in some good defensive linemen.
Yeah. I like
the Chicago Bears are coming back to greatness.
Yeah, like you're the GM executive. We've brought in some real young, good-looking young athletes.
Bears Super Bowl.
Bears Super Bowl. Okay, that's asinine. Let's go. I'm going to go with, let's see, my representation is out of the North as well. And I'm going Green Bay Packers, man. I think Green Bay gets back to the land of the living, and our little nephew Ty celebrates immensely to the what he will call is the best day in his life.
They do have a really good team. I cannot take anything away from them. Okay, so on the AFC side?
AFC side, my turn first. I would love to pick the Dolphins. Unfortunately, I think I am destined to never, ever, ever watch a Dolphins Super Bowl. I'm going chalk here, man. I just think the Broncos are ridiculously loaded. I think Peyton Manning's on a mission, and I love what the Broncos are doing with their offense and their defense. I'm going with Denver Broncos.
I'm taking Denver as well, and I'm going to wrap up. So who you got to win?
Denver Broncos, of which Ty Justice will then say is the worst day of his life. And
now
we might have to get him on drugs.
But we're going to have a repeat of the Super Bowl. Bears, Broncos. It's Peyton against my Bears.
Are your Bears going to get it done this year?
In a surprise, the NFL is going to bring Prince back to sing again.
I love it.
We're going to sing Purple Rain do the whole recreation of 2007.
Absolutely.
And the Bears are going to break my heart again, like they always do. They always look good. They always make me believe. They always get me in and get me hooked in. And they're going to break my heart. They're going to get beat by 30. And Peyton wins and rides out on a horse and retires.
All right. Both of us went Denver Broncos in the AFC and Super Bowl. There you have it, the Trading Justice NFL Prediction Podcast. For those of you who are interested in the NFL, and for those of you who are not interested in the NFL, you probably stopped listening 25 minutes ago.
You've been listening to the Trading Justice Podcast. If you've enjoyed yourself and think that the conversations and topics we've covered are important, help spread the word. Give us your feedback. 5 stars on iTunes, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. The Trading Justice Podcast is proudly sponsored by TackleTrading.com. Get off the sidelines and get in the game.